Alrighty, and with that said, we should be live and everything should be working now. I see we've got Biblical History Skeptics in there as well, which is awesome, and that means we actually know the live chat works, which is cool. So this is going to be the second video, deconstructing some of the, I want to call them articles, but just like with Matt Powell's movie, it's really awkward for me to use that term, because I don't know if that's accurate. Blobs of text probably is closer to what we're going to be looking at.
Collections of words.
Collections... See, a collection implies there's a level of completeness to it. Nah. There's nothing complete about this. But we are going to be looking at the Biblical Gender Roles website, and as opposed to last time, where you guys got to see me bash my head against the wall repeatedly by myself, this time I have brought in some guests, the hosts of the Digital Hammurabi channel, Dr. Josh and Megan.
Hello, everyone.
Say, this is the...
Sorry.
It's like that
usually speaks for me, so it works out well.
Well, see, having glanced at this article, I know that I must not speak for you ever.
Yes.
Oh.
In fact, I don't think I'm supposed to be speaking at
Put
all.
your hat back on, woman.
Sorry. Well, we're not worshiping God right now.
Oh, right.
Unless we are. Are we?
Well, are you?
I have a hat.
Are you in pain?
No.
If you're not in pain, we're not worshiping God.
Oh, okay, good.
Awkward. Well, this is going to be an interesting time because the last time we talked about, God, what was that article called? Why a wife should endure pain for her husband. And honestly, it was probably one of the worst things that I had read on the internet in a while. And this is coming from somebody who's peripherally aware of things like Daisy's destruction. So no, if you guys know what that is, I'm sorry. If you don't know what that is, don't look it up. It's how you lose faith in humanity very quickly.
Okay. I will not look it up.
Now, you will be disgusted more than this article can ever make you disgusted with people.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's horrid. But with that said, we can go ahead and start looking at the article itself and see what's going on. Also, I know that we are fighting against non sequitur show for views at the moment. So as awkward as that is also fine. People are going to be able to see this after in the interim anyway. So we're going to go ahead and scroll down and look at the first bit. And hopefully, I've only glanced at this. I'm hoping that they don't start off with 6 paragraphs of apologies for what's proceeding in the article like they did last time. Maybe the author will be a little more bold this time. Just so everybody's aware, though, in the About Me section, the author does point out that they are biologically male. So, bear in mind there is a little bit of bias here.
But we know that it's right.
Yes, it has to be.
Yeah. Because it's in the Bible.
No, because he's a guy.
Uh-oh.
A man.
That's a good point.
He's a manly man. Alrighty. So, it begins by saying, many Christian teachers teach that husbands and wives should be equally accountable to one another. We are told that neither the husband nor the wife should keep any information back from one another, and that complete transparency is the foundation of the healthy Christian marriage. I would say that's probably a foundation of a healthy marriage.
Yes.
Or
a relationship.
Yes. There are certainly some white lies that are okay, like not telling your significant other what you're getting them for Christmas until Christmas comes around, surprising them with something like dinner. Those are little intentional fibs that I think, can be considered healthy, but past that, yes, transparency is something that should be sought after. In any marriage, not just a Christian one. But the distinction, it being Christian marriage, I'm sure that's going to come up in the article.
Yes.
So then goes on to say, before we get into the scriptural arguments against the arguments that proponents of this teaching make, we need to define what it means to be accountable. Also, we have a super chat from Biblical History Skeptics. This is going to get spicy really fast. Preps vodka shots. Unfortunately, I am drinking water, which is not going to be anywhere near strong enough for what I'm guessing is in here. Merriam-Webster defines accountable as required to explain actions or decisions to someone. I also like the appeal to the dictionary there, just saying. I'm not a fan of that, but let's keep it. It's fine. Dictionary.com defines accountable as subject to the obligation to report, explain, or justify responsible, answerable. I would have loved if they would have also included, like, the Oxford Standard Dictionary definition of accountable in here as well, as opposed to dictionary.com as a as a primary.
They probably didn't want to lose their audience.
We need to talk about dictionaries that are definitely worth looking at. So dictionary.com. Okay, no, stop.
The Jesus Dictionary, a few lines down.
All right. Said, now that we understand what accountable means, we can discuss whether the doctrine of equal accountability between husbands and wives is founded in the teaching of the Bible or just the teachings of our culture. I think the verbiage there is telling.
The teachings of your culture is apparently irrelevant to this person.
Yes, by saying just the teachings of their culture, I think the verbiage is intentionally precise.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. So, we have here, it says, the husband and wife are one flesh. I think normally it says they are of one flesh. I think usually that's how it's pronounced. It's said in the Bible. But I could be wrong. I'm not sure if there's actually a difference between those two.
Probably not.
It says Christian teachers who teach equal accountability between a husband and wife base their doctrine on the following principle, that God says a husband and wife are one flesh in marriage. Then he quotes Mark. For this, he quotes Mark, but I don't see that he has what translation he's using. That's cumbersome.
It looks like the KJV.
Yeah, but there's three. Yeah, but there's three of those.
That's fair. Maybe it's all of them.
It's all of them. I picked my favorite words. The KJV has the best words. For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother to cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh. So then they are no more twain, but one flesh. That is Mark 10:7-8. Okay, so it is one flesh, at least in the translation that he's using. See, so then he says the argument basically goes like this. If a husband and wife are no longer two, but one, then they should be nothing that one knows that the other, or there should be nothing that one knows that the other does not. So far, I kind of agree with that. Again, barring the white fibs that you can use for surprises for your significant other.
Mm-hmm.
It says the problem with this interpretation of the one flesh principle is that the oneness between a husband and wife is not a oneness of equals.
Also, my denomination doesn't like it. It's poopy.
that seems to be where we go. Also, the One Wolf Girl says that no, I was late. Don't worry, we haven't gotten that far into the article yet, so you're not terribly
still
late.
In the introduction.
Also, this will be one of the few streams here recently where we have less than 100 viewers, which is good because I haven't actually had a smaller stream in a while. It'll probably a lot easier to keep up with the chat that way. So, it goes on to say, the scriptures tell us that marriage is a picture of the relationship between Christ and the church. Okay. I don't think I have much of a problem with that so far, because I know that there is a whole thing in the Old Testament about God being married to the Israelites. There's also passages about him violating Israel as a nation, but I guess we're not going to talk about that right now.
I suspect this person probably would also argue that one cannot rape one's wife.
Actually, there's an article on his website that specifically is titled, "Is My Husband Raping Me?" And it comes to the conclusion that no.
Excellent!
Can't. So
Good.
Actually, yes, they have that as an article on the website as well.
Good.
So at first, when you said that, I thought, why would you say that it's okay to rape your wife? But then I realized that's not what you were saying.
No.
Yeah, very quickly.
Also, there was a comment that I received on the last video. I think I actually might need to bring this up because it's prudent to the conversation. Also, there's going to be a content warning to this, just so people are aware. But let me go ahead and see if I can't pull this up real quick. It shouldn't take terribly long. And here we are. So, just so people know, when we say jokes like that, it's not because we're saying that, oh, there's like a small fringe amount of people that think this, and they're wrong, it's okay, they're going to be wrong and dumb. No, there's actually enough people that think that that's the case. One of them was actually in my comment section. So again, content warning, if anybody has any PTSD or anything like that, I apologize, but this is your point where you can pause the video if need be. However, for those who can read it, let me make sure that it's viewable in the stream. So this was on the original Biblical Gender Roles video. Pointed out that it was literally a rape apologetic article. And then, of course, we get this lovely comment. Even though most women harbor rape fetishes themselves, we are called monsters for accommodating their wishes.
Well, I'm glad this person knows everything about all women ever.
Yeah, because not... He says, he cites some studies later on in his later comments, but again, there's a difference between, and this is pointed out by Kadima. I don't have Kadima's stuff linked because I just took the pictures of their comments for posterity's sake. But Kadima points out that there's a huge difference in the following conversation with this individual. There's a huge difference between non-con, which is a type of BDSM kink, and literally...
actual rape.
Yeah, literal actual rape. There's a huge difference between these two. And this person does not actually understand that, as evidenced here in their follow-ups. They say, sirs, according to this citation, women fantasize about it all the bloody time. Psychology Today, first of all, Psychology Today is not that's not a primary source citation. They would have citations on Psychology Today to a study they would use. That would be a proper citation, but anyway. And then, actually, no, Kadima's thing is here, because they quoted it, and don't know why that went to... Okay, that's weird. For some reason...
It really wants us to see Jimmy.
It really does. That's strange.
We all want to see Jimmy.
That's true.
Yeah, for some reason, I took the thumbnail for mine and Jimmy's episode and threw it in the same folder as my comments folder, just because it was easy at the time, and now I'm regretting that. But I'm not going to read everything that they said here. Anybody?
Sorry, it's not worth doing rape these days? I would rather just wait for sex box. It's not worth raping someone.
Which means that this individual thinks that there's an actual argument to be made for doing that.
Oh, I need a shower.
Yeah.
You read very fast.
I do.
Like I'm on the second line.
Sorry.
The point being with all this, and again, I'm not going to read the entire thing there. You guys can look at it on the screen. I'll take it off the screen here in a second once Dr. Josh is done with it. Point being, these people exist. They're disgusting, and it's articles like the one that we're addressing here that make them feel like they're entitled to think this way.
Yeah, like there's actually genuinely nothing wrong. And in fact, that people who disagree with them are wrong and trying to stifle their human liberties.
Yep. So are you done reading it, Dr. Josh?
I did. No, but go ahead. No,
Fair enough.
I'm good.
There's more here as well, but I'm not going to get into all of that. But no, I do have that entire conversation saved, just in case they decide to delete it at any point and say that they never said those things. Sorry, no, you did. You did, and you said them in a public forum, so that's on you. Oh, sorry. But let's continue with something that's arguably just as bad. We have the scripture here saying, "Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands, and as unto the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church. And he is the Savior of the body. Therefore, as the church is subject unto Christ, so let the wives be to their own husbands in everything." I have a personal problem with trying to apply that to modern day. And it's not just a hypothetical problem, it's a problem with how I was personally raised. So my stepfather growing up was decently abusive. I say decently because he didn't beat, but he was very emotionally abusive. I could not leave my room, like ever. That was just a thing I wasn't allowed to do. And I was not allowed to speak if I left my room because it interrupted his ability to read the stuff he was reading on the computer. Apparently that was important to him. However, when I tried to get my mom to do something about it, it was usually stuff like this. That was why she wouldn't. The man was the leader of the household, so even though he was a deadbeat and didn't have a job, he was the leader of the household. So personally for me, I have a personal history with something like this. I have a huge issue with it. Not just hypothetically, oh, that's egregious, oh, that's bad. Oh, no, I lived this is harmful. Mm-hmm. This is stupid.
I mean, the hoops, I mean, it's scary because, I mean, I'm, sort of just like you. I mean, having to Everything sounds like Siri nowadays.
Turn
You know,
left
having
at the
gone,
light.
having been in this culture, having been in this fundamentalist evangelical um, Christian culture for all these years, watching people defend this this mentality, and seeing how the lengths to which people will go. So if you have a situation like you're describing, what you will routinely hear, and I know, Serge, you know this, but for anybody that doesn't, what you'll routinely hear is God's in control, and we can but obey him. And if we do, God will ultimately take care of this. Now, if we don't see that manifested in this life, so much more our joy, because God will reward us in an even greater measure in heaven. And it's being able to rationalize to that degree where you take constant abuse so that you can fulfill the letter of this 2,000-year-old document. It's astounding.
Yeah. And it's not just this too. Or it's not just the instances there, but I know several families, including, like, if we went to my grandmother, apparently she lived under, the rule of law of her husband because they were fundamental Christians. Because stuff like this tells them that that's how things are. And sorry, the only real difference between a biological male and biological female are the amounts of gray and white matter in the brain. Past that, and genitalia and chromosome, but that's getting even further down the line. The only real difference there, aside from those things, is not. There's no reason that you should treat people any differently. People should be treated equally. Again, I can't sit there and say, hey, you have a different amount of a particular type of matter in your brain, therefore I am better or worse than you. Like, no, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. But to continue with this silliness, if I randomly highlight things, it's because I'm trying to figure out where I am on the screen. Are Christ and his church equals? Absolutely not. One leads and one follows. So we're establishing a hierarchy. This is part of that very abusive mentality. This is one of the reasons why, in theory, the way the political system works here in America is supposed to be better than something like this. Because here, we can impeach a leader. We can get rid of elected officials. Here, though, it's establishing that these things are not equal, meaning that one person can definitely give orders down. And the reason that's egregious is not just because it's talking about, is the God of this Bible and its followers equal, but there was a comparison earlier in the article saying that Christ is likened unto the man and the followers are likened unto the woman. Once you draw that comparison, you see why something like this starts to become problematic. Mm-hmm. And after we get past this area here, then I will go ahead and let either one of you read the next portions if you would like.
Sure.
But next we have, is Christ accountable to his church? Is Christ required to explain his actions or decisions to his church? Absolutely not. That sounds like an apologetic that can be used to justify practically anything.
I don't have to explain it to you because you are my subordinate.
Yes. Is Christ answerable to his church? Must he justify whatever he does to his church? The answer again is absolutely not. Okay, cool. That's fine. If you want to, commit genocide, if you want to commit filicide on a bunch of babies and you want to commit genocide on everyone else with a global flood, then we don't have to ask you why you did that.
Nope.
Then it says, the language of Ephesians chapter 5 on the position of the husband to the wife is crystal clear. There is no gray area here. The husband is the head of the wife as Christ is the head of the church. Therefore, the husband is not in any way accountable to his wife, even though he and his wife are one as the church is one to Christ. I'm feeling like this is the type of rhetoric that I don't want to say that I don't want to make a call to action because that would be wrong. But this is the type of rhetoric that makes me think that if this person just disappeared off the planet, it might actually be a bit of a better place.
But the thing is, as you said, this is so unbelievably common, and this type of comparison, and I used to give it when I pastored the church, and it was because people would say, "Look, my husband," as you said, "my husband's a deadbeat. He doesn't do anything, and he's not worthy of my respect." Right? And I mean, this was just very, very common. And my response was always to them, I hear you, right? But the Bible says, and so the way you have to think about it is, have you ever worked at a job where you didn't think your boss was really all that great? And maybe you were smarter than he was, or you were better at the job than he was, but he was in charge. You still have to respect his authority and his and it's. That sounds so good, right? It sounds so clear because, of course, I mean, that's the way you would do it. You do it in the military that way.
The real world works.
And you can get pretty far down the road. The problem is that, of course, when you instruct wives, deadbeat husbands to do this sort of thing, the damage it becomes quite manifest years down the road, and you see the wife ultimately either completely beaten down, or she explodes, and it's obviously at that point no good for her husband as far as he's concerned. So it's just dangerous. It's a very dangerous mentality.
Oh yeah, and we also have another super chat from Biblical History Skeptics. This is why I am a misanthrope who virtually could not care less about the future of humanity. You know what, Chris? In some ways I agree with you, and in this one we might actually agree. My thing is that I care about the future of humanity, but I also have little faith in it, especially after seeing stuff like this. I also see that we have S.J. Thomason in the chat. How's it going, Stephanie? All right, so with that, I think we can continue, and if either Dr. Josh or Megan would like to continue reading from here, then we can go ahead and trade off for a little bit.
Sure. Does this mean that a husband does not have any responsibilities toward his wife? Of course he does. After God addresses the duty of the wife to submit to her husband in everything, he addresses the responsibilities of the husband toward the wife. And this is Ephesians 5. Husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it, that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word, that he might present it to himself a glorious church, not having a spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that it should be holy and without blemish. So ought men to love their wives as their own bodies. He that loveth his wife loveth himself. For no man ever yet hated on his own flesh, but nourisheth and cherisheth it. Cherisheth it?
Cherish.
Seriously, get a better translation.
How dare you?
I have a song, actually, if this person's watching, about the KJV, even as the Lord of the church. So it's interesting that the argument here for being a decent human being and loving your spouse is not that they are also a human being and therefore worthy of love and respect, but that it's a way of loving yourself. It's a way of being good to yourself. That is the most selfish call for loving someone I have ever seen.
But you sounded amazing reading it.
Thank you. I try.
Yeah, I do have to agree. It's a I understand that it is selfish, but I think if I could play devil's advocate, it might actually be useful in some ways. Because if you're dealing with somebody who has the mentality that they're better than their significant other already going in, then it might be the only check and balance you can give to them, is to say to them that loving your significant other is akin to loving yourself. That might be the one check and balance that helps in the situation. Obviously, historically, that's not been the case, but maybe that could have been the intent. I could be wrong.
Oh, no, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, I can't tell you how much marriage counseling I did when I pastored. And you know, the first part of Ephesians 5 that we read was, you know, to the wife, listen, you have to respect him. But it was immediately followed up by, but hey, look, buddy boy, you know, would you go stabbing yourself? No. So don't go stabbing her. She's your flesh. So I mean, the logic is sound, right? I mean, I think the logic is sound. It's coming from a patriarchal society, and so I think it's the wrong way to go about doing this. But I do think that from an internal critique, I mean, the logic is sound.
Internally, it makes 8 million kinds of sense. I just think that it's absolutely ridiculous to take this kind of advice and guidance and try and apply it wholesale to modern relationships.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we're more patriarchal than I'd like, but like, I'm allowed to go out in the workforce. I don't have to stay home and have babies. The world has moved on, and there are better ways of having relationships than this.
Oh, yeah.
But slavery wasn't so bad. Let's all just remember that. It wasn't so bad. It wasn't as bad.
I have a video for that as well.
I'm hoping that I have the coordinates to your place right, because the missiles are coming.
I mean, for those watching, I don't know if you haven't seen Prophet of Zod's video on this, absolutely brilliant.
I got to voice in that.
Did you?
Awesome.
Yeah. I was the more French sounding guy who was saying that we need to take their cultural context into thought.
But the part at the end, I mean, if that video didn't make it abundantly clear, the problem of not seeing relative morality, the part at the end where the mother is, talking about her daughter that's been captured, and then she
starts making the apologetics for it.
Yeah, and then but she does get one day off a week. So she only has to work from sunup to sundown 6 days a week for no pay. And it's possible to escape. I do think that passage is funny because it is debated as to what it means that you can escape. But anyway, it was an excellent video. If you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend it.
I see that we also have Craig in here as well. It's funny, Craig, is you actually came up right before the stream because I was checking my my phone to make sure that your stream had ended, so I wasn't stepping on your toes. Although I'm fine stepping on non-sex just because they are larger. But with that said, I guess we can continue.
There are several kinds of love in the Bible. There is an affectionate kind of love that is usually conditionally based upon what a person does for another. There is a family type of love that is instinctual, which describes the love of a parent for a child or a child for a parent. There is a type of love that is sexually based. And then there is an unconditional love, which is a love based in a choice and not feelings. The last kind of love is the one that is the strongest type of love and is most often associated with God and his actions towards us. This is the kind of love God commands husbands to have toward their wives in Ephesians chapter 5.
I hold umbrage with that because the idea of holding unconditional love for your significant other, it feels like a gateway to several types of abuse.
Yeah, I can do whatever the hell I want to you and you have to still love me because we're married. It doesn't matter if I beat you daily. That's my right because I'm your husband. Yeah. And you have to keep loving me.
Yeah, I think that the entire idea, even parent to child,
yes,
the idea of unconditional love sounds like a gateway for all kinds of abuse because you always have to love your children. Okay, well when your child decides that he wants to go do a school shooting, as an example, do you still hold that then? Do you still accept them then, or do you let society do with them what they're going to as a punishment for their actions? Yeah. It seems to me that the idea of an unconditional type of love is a gateway to allowing egregious atrocities to continue in situations where they occur. That's just my thought.
To play devil's advocate, because I also had to do that here. And again, this is just keeping, I think, with the internal consistency of the text itself. I don't agree with the text, but yeah, I think it has internal consistency. The idea here, is not so much loving. I don't, as I would understand the text, I don't think it has to do with loving and accepting, and with no recourse, with no punishment, with no. So, for example, in the scenario where you have a child that does a school shooting, the loving that child in that context would be allowing them to be judged,
allowing them to suffer for their actions.
Yeah, that's right. So because love seeks to develop, love seeks the best ultimately for that child. So I hear you. I would say that I would take umbrage with the way people understand that,
but not necessarily with the intent.
Yeah,
I think I can agree with that.
Yeah, I think probably the intent here is, as you were saying, sir, is to create a check and balance for the husband, because it's the command here is, husbands, your wives are supposed to submit to you. You better sure as hell love them, and do everything possible to do what's best for them. Again, I don't know why we have to have this odd imbalance, or why we can't just say, can we all just get along? Like, hey, why don't we just love everybody? Like, I don't understand. But I mean,
you wouldn't need the check and balance if you hadn't have created the inequality in the first place.
Exactly right.
I think that's the takeaway there. All right. Well, let us continue on. Let me scroll down here so that we can make sure that I know where we are. There we go.
Okay. Husbands are called by God to unconditionally choose to love their wives by washing their wives' spiritual spots and wrinkles with the word of God. You cannot make that sexual.
Oh my
I
God.
refuse.
You're just sitting there like,
2 Peter 3.
Unfortunately, I'm not using the right holy book, but
Damn it. Teaching, correcting, and rebuking them as necessary, because I am but a child and incapable of understanding the consequences of my own lowly womanly actions.
Oh my God.
Sorry, I may have added a little bit into that paragraph.
May have embellished a bit.
Just a little. They are to provide for their wife's physical needs, protect their wife's body as if it were their own, and give their lives to save their wife's life as Christ did for his church.
I think what you did was give the amplified version.
Oh, thank you.
So,
thank you.
Or the New Living Translation. That was fine. You caught the essence.
I feel like I did. I think I elaborated some there. So, oh dear.
This gets into the issue that I held with the original article, when they said that the entire relationship should be about sacrifice. The issue that I took in it when I did my video was that I think, just my personal thoughts, everybody runs their relationships differently, but I think that the more healthy thing is compromise, not sacrifice.
Yep, not complete and utter sacrifice and sublimation of your own desires and needs.
And it's...
like, I love you, but please don't die for me.
Okay.
That's just...
I mean,
no, you're not allowed. You have to...
Oh, I'm not allowed?
No.
Oh, but I mean, I think that's what makes... Sorry, we're getting ready to...
Go for it.
Okay. Like, I feel like we have the perfect relationship.
Like an equal, respectful, loving relationship.
No, but I mean, at every turn, and again, I would say that... I would say that Jesus' message probably came closest to this, right?
Are we better than Jesus?
That's such a leading question. I don't know where to go with it. But
you can say no. It's okay.
But I think that in our relationship, what I see is that at every turn I'm thinking, what can I do for you to make your life easier? And you're saying the exact same thing. And because there's this constant desire, I mean, it's just so cliche, but I mean, this constant desire.
Well, we treat each other as equals, and as, like, your thoughts and feelings are important to me, and my thoughts and feelings are important to you, and we take each other into account when we, like, make decisions and live our lives, which I think is a much, again, that in the context of the biblical scripture and of the time the Bible was written makes perfect sense, but it does not work for today's world.
Yeah, I mean, I think were Jesus or Paul or Peter or any of these others here right now living in this context, they would say, yes, what Josh and Megan just said, that's correct.
Treat each other like grown-ups.
Because they're, these types of behavioral patterns are relative to the culture. They just are. Paul was operating in the culture that he found himself. And so that's why I say, like, fighting against, sorry, I know I'm getting off a little off topic here, but I mean, when I talk about Old Testament passages and I talk about, 1 Samuel 15, or passages in Numbers or something, or slavery in the Old Testament. I'm not trying to bash God or bash the Bible or any of those things. What I'm trying to say is that the morality is relative to the culture in which it exists, right? So it's exactly what we would expect. It's not better. I mean, there's some things that the biblical text, I think, does, the biblical laws do a little bit better. There's some things that the Code of Hammurabi does, and it's 1,300 years earlier. So, 1,200 years. But, sorry, that's debated. But 10 to 1,200. Okay, I'm going to stop.
Well, remember, real Christians didn't exist until 1511.
Oh. Yeah.
Sorry, Protestant split joke.
But that's I feel nerdy.
This is the channel to be nerdy on about this.
It's true. It's fair point. It's a fair point. I think that if this is one of those places that the old cliche, drawing out the principle of what the text is saying, I think is actually a really great thing. The principle here that everybody misses, including the people that are, writing this article, I think, is that in this period, in this patriarchal system, this very patriarchal system, the principle here is love each other. Do what's, do for the other. The way that it manifests itself in this society is, husbands, love your wives, wives, submit to your husbands. In the same way that slaves don't seek to be free. If you're free, don't seek to be a slave. It's operating, and I'm going to be quiet. I realize that I've been going for 17 minutes. So. Right.
It's 100% okay. I don't mind. I think we can continue, though.
But just because we have responsibilities towards someone does not always mean we are accountable to that person for how we fulfill those responsibilities. For instance, a teacher is responsible to their students for teaching them the right materials they need to learn, but they are not accountable to their students for fulfilling those responsibilities, rather to their school leadership.
No.
Yeah.
I think that if you have a responsibility to teach a child, then you are also accountable to that child for teaching them and not lying to them. That's not a subtle jab at AIG, even if it might sound like it.
Quite overt.
I say that it's not subtle because it is a jab, but I refuse to be subtle about it. That is not a subtle jab at Abeka literature, which I was raised on. It's quite an overt jab at Abeka literature.
Are you familiar with that?
No.
It's very, very, very conservative fundamentalist Christian homeschooling.
Yeah, it's your science textbook qualifying and poisoning the well before talking about evolution, saying that Charles Darwin had a deathbed conversion in the literature.
Oh.
Yeah. And not talking about the fact that he actually went to school to be a theologian. Completely ignoring that and just calling him a God hater in the actual text.
Also on the cover, there's Adam petting a dinosaur. So.
Yeah, no, it's Abeka literature is an interesting topic that I plan to get into at some point on my channel. It's my childhood. It's bad.
I will watch that because the whole Christian homeschooling thing in this country is very...
Funny is that I wasn't homeschooled.
Oh, really?
I went to a private school. I went to a private school that exclusively used the Abeka literature.
Oh, Jesus.
Wow.
And it was a K through 12 private school with its own college, so there was a chance I could have been in that system through all of my education. Yeah.
The education system here is really interesting. And by interesting, I mean, oh dear God.
Yeah, no, it's bad. It's horrible.
All right, then.
Yeah, I really don't like the idea of privately funded education because of how often things go awry in the private sphere for education.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, moving on.
Another example would be parents. Parents have many responsibilities towards their children, yet they are not accountable to their children for how they fulfill those responsibilities. So as a parent, I have a massive issue with that. Like, because I admit to my children on a weekly basis when I have overreacted about something, when I have been unreasonable, when I have made the wrong choice. I say, I'm sorry, I'm not perfect, I'll try and do better. This is what happened, this is why I made the decision I did, this is what I think I should have done instead, and we move forward.
But you do that because it commands you. So
I mean, that is true.
That's how you teach your children sound methodology.
Yes.
That's why when I moved into the workforce, it was very weird to me to start hearing things like, okay, you have to do that because I'm your boss and I said to do it. Because even though my stepdad was very controlling and used the, because I said so's, my mom, who was the one I actually respected between the two for obvious reasons, I never heard because I told you so once growing up. I heard the reason why. Oh, you have a curfew. You have a curfew because those aren't fireworks outside, those are gunshots. I grew up in a ghetto.
To keep you safe, yeah.
Yeah. Why shouldn't I play video games past 10 o'clock? Oh, you're going to mess up your sleep schedule and you're going to not be able to function at school. Not because I said so.
Right.
I just didn't hear because I said so. I was given solid reasoning behind any decision that my mom made. Now, strangely enough, one of the reasons we lived in a ghetto and stayed there was because she was spending so much money for my private education. But, Christian schooling's expensive.
Indeed.
What's this about charity, I hear?
Yeah, I know, right?
None of that. But sometimes we are accountable to the person we have responsibilities towards. Didn't he just spend like 3 paragraphs saying how you aren't accountable?
Yeah, he mentioned a lot about that. This is like what happened earlier when one of the passages here undermined what he began with. This person does a
well thought through collection of words.
No, that's why I said it's not a collection.
Yeah,
I'm not
you're
okay
right.
using that.
A bag of words. Let's go with that.
Yeah, the mishmash.
Yeah. We, as both men and women, have many responsibilities toward God, and we are also accountable to him for how we fulfill those responsibilities. Okay. But women are also accountable toward their husbands for how they fulfill their responsibilities to them as wives and mothers to their children. I see. So the thing is, I'm accountable to you because I am your subordinate. But you are not accountable to me regardless of your responsibilities toward me because because you are my ruler.
I'm glad we cleared that up.
Yeah. So that's the big difference here. Children are accountable to their parents and children are accountable to their teachers, but it doesn't work the other way around.
Yeah, he's not accountable to you because penis is basically what that boils down to.
Which is, I mean, a great basis for determining whether or not someone should be placed above you in a hierarchy.
It's like the new rock, paper, scissors.
It is. Except you have to get naked first.
Well, good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. I wish I actually had a soundboard for the Animaniac sound clip for that.
Me perfect.
That was one of those things that I didn't understand as a child, that every single time Wacko said goodnight everybody, it was because it was a sexual joke. I didn't get that as a kid, but as an adult, I look back on it and I go, wow, that's how they kept the parents entertained.
That's amazing.
All right, since we are done with that section, then we can go ahead and swap over to Josh reading it as quickly as he wishes to. Sorry.
That's it. If a husband and wife were equal partners in marriage, like 2 equal partners in a business together, then yes, they would be required to be completely transparent and there would be no secrets. All decisions would need to be made jointly and agreed upon together.
So if we just took all of the subjunctive tense out of that paragraph, we could just end the article here.
This would be great.
I think we're done.
Yeah, that would be great there. There's also a comment in the live chat that I think works here. Bimar13 says, so for a gay couple, who's accountable to who?
The one with the biggest penis is clearly more of a man.
But there's no guarantee that the one with the biggest penis is in fact the pitcher or catcher.
This is true.
So
but, I mean, we're going with biology here, Cyrus. I think if we've learned anything from this, it's that biology is completely infallible.
I'm glad we haven't learned anything from this.
We've learned nothing. Absolutely nothing. And that's not even getting to the issue of identity.
No.
That destroys all of this article.
Yeah.
Like, who's accountable to who? Well, if there's a man and a woman in the relationship, well, what if they're both trans?
I don't think that they would. I don't think the author would acknowledge such an identity.
Right. Biblical History Skeptics is another super chat. The one with Enki's penis.
Yep. Enki's penis trumps all penis.
Yeah, if you can dig in the marshes and fill the Tigris and the Euphrates,
you're a man, my son.
Just all right. I'm fairly certain there's an area of porn. I'm fairly certain there's an area of Pornhub dedicated to that.
That is what the world, and sadly, many Christian churches and teachers teach today.
Sadly?
Sadly.
Okay.
That marriage is an equal partnership between a man and a woman.
Honey, we're doing it wrong.
No, we're not.
Cow chicka pow wow? Sorry, it's the internet. I feel like that joke's necessary in here somewhere.
Was that subtle? I try not to make it subtle. But the scriptures are clear in multiple passages throughout the Old and New Testaments that marriage is not a partnership of equals, but rather it is a patriarchy or male-led relationship.
Yes.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
Sure. Doesn't mean we should use it today.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the reason we shouldn't use it today.
That's a great argument for how morality has evolved over the years and become much better.
Better.
Yes.
Because last I checked, we also don't stone people for blasphemy anymore here in the United States.
Nope.
And we also don't burn them for being Wiccan.
And God did not just flip a coin, as some people think, quote, because someone had to be in charge, end quote.
That's an actual argument.
I've never heard the argument from God being a gambler. I've never heard that.
On a warm summer's eve, on a train bound for nowhere.
He met up with a gambler. They were both too tired to speak.
They were
too tired to sleep. Wow. It's been a long time since I've listened to some Kenny Rogers.
Yeah, it has been.
I've actually seen him live in concert.
Really?
Yeah, I wish that I had a smartphone at the time, but they didn't exist at the time that I saw him, because he actually did a rap of The Gambler live in Pensacola, and nobody recorded it. I never found it on the internet. I was very upset.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great. I actually really like Kenny Rogers. It's like some of the only country I enjoy.
Do you know that song?
No.
I'll have to sing it to you.
Okay.
It actually is a good song, not just because it's a decent song, but it's got a good story.
It's one of the ones that I'm surprised I didn't end up singing on that stream that we did.
Next time.
Have you seen that, sir? It's our 4,000 subscriber stream where we.
I've seen. I saw Skylar talking about it, but I haven't seen that stream yet. Biblical History Skeptic says, I don't know what Cyrus is talking about. I stoned the fuck out of some heretical guys the other day. Took a boulder to finish the one dude off. I'm just imagining Chris just sitting there like, Job is not in the first book.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. Sounds right.
If there's anything he would stone somebody for.
Yes.
That'd be it would either be that or he would just take a giant hammer and just go, mythicism is not a historical position.
Oh gosh. I don't know where I am.
The scriptures.
Okay, there we go.
You're here, right? Maybe? No?
Yeah, I think it's right there. The scriptures show us that marriage was purposefully designed the way it was as part of God's larger plan, shown in 1 Corinthians 11. Quote, for a man indeed ought not to cover his head, for as much as he is the image and glory of God, but the woman is the glory of the man. For the man is not of the woman, but the woman of the man. Neither was the man created for the woman, but the woman for the man. You can probably tell that I've read that.
Sounds like a wonderful argument for hijab.
Yeah.
That also seems to be a common, to break off on a small tangent, a common Islamic apologetic seems to be the parallels between the Quran, passages in the Quran and passages in the Bible. Stuff like this is commonly used, and it kind of bothers me because it's like, well, if I don't take the legitimacy of the Bible, then why would I think that makes the Quran more legitimate?
Yeah.
I know, I've read through the Quran's an interesting read. It's like 4/5 the size of the New Testament. If anybody of my audience haven't read it yet, I would suggest doing so. It's an interesting jumble of words.
The passage above from 1 Corinthians that I have just shown you is one that you will not hear in most churches today. Well, that's nonsense. Instead,
you're speaking as somebody who's probably taught it.
Oh yeah.
He's a persecuted minority.
Oh, no,
this is what you are failing to appreciate.
I apologize.
He is sharing secret knowledge with us because no other churches teach it correctly.
Ah, yes.
And actually, he would probably be stoned by Chris as well. So,
if he went to Scotland, would he find any true natives there?
True Scotsman. I think
it's a no true Scotsman fallacy joke.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know the joke.
Are you familiar?
I'm just pretending.
Are you familiar with the fallacy?
Yeah.
No.
No,
so,
no.
Okay.
You had to be.
The no true Scotsman fallacy. For instance, you have two Scotsmen. You have one person who says, "My grandpa was a true Scotsman," and then his friend, who's also a native-born Scotsman, says, "Well, no true Scotsman puts sugar on their porridge." And then the other person says, "Well, my grandpa put sugar on his porridge, and he is a true Scotsman." The other person asserts, but no true Scotsman would put sugar on their porridge. It's the fallacy there is that there's no true Scotsman. There's not a criteria that you can meet for it. It's the same thing with a lot of religious denominations. A Baptist can't say that they're the true Christian over, can probably say it over a Mormon because we know the history of the Mormon church, but that's besides the point. They can't say it to a Pentecostal, and the Pentecostal can't say that they're a true Christian in the face of a Catholic, and a Catholic can't say that they're a true Christian in the face of a Gnostic, and so on and so forth, going down the line.
I mean, they can.
They can and they do, but it's fallacious.
As an aside, I have heard my stepfather say no true Scotsman puts sugar on his porridge. But I think that's because he's a Scot and he thinks sugar on your porridge is ridiculous.
So there's some validity to the fallacy.
It's completely unrelated to the fallacy, but...
But it just so happens that the verbiage connects.
Yes. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's good.
That's okay.
Okay. Instead, you will hear all the time how God made man and woman equally in his image. What nonsense. Most Christian teachers today appeal to the Genesis account to teach that God made man and woman equally in his image. I find it so interesting, the struggle in my brain, because, you know, if I'm talking to somebody who's using the Genesis account in a way that I think is ill-advised, then I wrestle against what they're saying. Here, like, I'm thinking from the internal critique standpoint, I'm going, but that is what Genesis says. When, you know, in another context, I would say that's not what Genesis says. It's really interesting.
No true Christian would say that's what Genesis says.
That's not true, and it is.
Yesn't.
So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. Love the King James.
I'm glad you do.
Don't you love a version of the Bible cobbled together from a bunch of manuscripts written only 100 years before the cobblation?
Yep. Seems legit.
Sorry, the history of the King James version is weird, and it makes KJV onlyists look really bad.
Yeah.
Did we end up doing... So I have a long textual criticism series on Digital Hammurabi. I don't remember if I got it. I don't think I actually got into the King James, because who gives a fuck? I mean, because I didn't have time. Sorry. That was probably insensitive.
Nah, maybe, probably, yesn't.
They teach, quote, see, it says male and female created he them. If anybody ever says male and female created he them in actual speech, that's really sad. Because, see, this isn't a quote of them. Anyway, that means God created both man and woman equally in his image. Shouldn't we say God, both man and woman, created he equally in his image? Okay, no, never mind.
I am being gifted with cat.
Hurry! Oz is trying to convince me that we should feed him.
Yeah, he scratched my foot a number of times.
You did?
Yeah, which is awesome.
It's because he loves you.
Yes. But is that really what that passage teaches? No, but for so many reasons that you don't understand. Does it say God created male and female in his image? Or does it just say that God created male and female? Read the passage again.
No. It's like. Did you ever have these like trick quizzes in school where your teachers write out a bunch of instructions and then right at the bottom, like instruction number 12 is only follow instructions 1 through 3.
Yes.
Like, don't answer any questions beyond question 3, and you read it and you're like, I've already done all of the other questions. But they said, but we told you to read it through first. This is like, sorry.
What is the one? Tangent. On the way to St. Ides, I met a man with 7 wives. The 7 wives had 7 cats and blah, blah, blah. How many are going to St. Ides? And you said they're doing all the math.
Just the one.
It's just the one.
Yeah.
You know where I heard that? Die Hard.
The best Christmas movie.
Indeed. Yeah.
I actually had a family, not argument, but discussion on WhatsApp over whether Die Hard was a Christmas movie or not. I was shocked because I thought we were all in agreement that it definitely is.
I think I'd like to make an argument for Iron Man 3 being a Christmas movie.
I'm happy with Iron Man 3 being a Christmas movie.
Yeah, especially when you have so many people that love that. You have so many people that love that franchise, so angry at that movie. And I'm fine with that. I like subversive humor, and that's all that movie is. It's great.
What are you looking at?
I'm just reading Hebrew. Okay. Sorry. And while the Hebrew word for man, Adam, can be mean...
Can be mean mankind. Can be mean...
I'm glad this was proofread so thoroughly.
Oh, yeah. He's got a good editor.
Really?
Can be mean... I'm going to read it in, true form. Can be mean mankind. There are 2 reasons that we know it refers specifically to male human beings and not all mankind, men and women. The first reason is the key phrase, created he him. I'm sorry.
That phrase that you're already holding umbrage with.
And this refers particularly to Adam, the man, the male.
I'm glad we emphasized that 3 times.
I love that he says the man, the male, but I wonder if he actually understands. Oh, dear Lord, what have you done? Anyway, I love how he says Adam, the man, the male, but I wonder if he understands that male is a completely different word if we're talking about Hebrew.
I'm going to go out on a real shaky limb and say he doesn't.
Yeah. So why have you done this?
Can I talk to the manager?
Oh my. Okay, so for context, this is not what Pam's hair normally looks like. But she has decided that she would like a pseudo bowl cut today.
Nice.
Can I talk to the manager?
You want to talk to the manager haircut?
I'd like a manager, please.
I am the manager of this channel, and you are talking to me.
I'd like your manager.
God. Okay, let's continue.
Sorry. Therefore, we know that when it says he created man in his image, it is referring specifically to male human beings, not female human beings. The second reason we know that he was not referring to creating both men and women equally in his image is because of Paul's divine commentary from 1 Corinthians 11 that we have just mentioned. It clearly states that man is, quote, in the image and glory of God, and then uses but, indicating that the woman is not in the image and glory of God. Woman is the glory of the man.
So what I'm getting from this is that God has a penis.
God has a penis.
If God didn't have a penis, then he wouldn't have been able to fuck over the world so hard. But I also like how he says Paul's divine commentary. I wonder if this person's aware that, one, Paul wasn't divine. Secondly, I wonder if he's also aware that not all of those letters were real.
It's in the Bible, sirs. They have to be real.
Come on, you know the answer to this.
If they're not real, the world explodes.
He does know things, and not what you said. Be true.
Can we just get a copy of the Jefferson Bible? I think that would be a lot better right now.
I don't know if I know what that is.
The Thomas Jefferson famously took the Bible and I don't remember what version he used, but he took the Bible and took a pair of clippers and clipped out every portion of the Bible that made mention to anything mythical, so he could just pull out the philosophy, and he was left with a pamphlet when he did that. And so the Jefferson Bible is literally like that-ish big.
Huh.
It's almost nothing.
Interesting.
It's an interesting story. I would look it up. It's got some Jefferson, if memory serves, Jefferson was a deist and wasn't a huge fan of Christianity on the whole, and that's why he did that. He was like, "Nah, this is a thing that I don't like. Let me go ahead and just take some snippers to it." Oh dear, I'm left with not a whole lot left. Alias fake name. That is clever. I'm sorry. That's clever. Alias fake name says in the chat that he actually has a copy of the Jefferson Bible. So that's neat. I would actually like to get a copy of it myself for that. And Biblical History Skeptics has another $5 donation. Of course God has a penis. Hence he knocked up Mary with his enormous schlong he stole from Enki. Oh dear.
I was a little bit traumatized when I realized that the passage in the Bible that talks about the Holy Spirit coming upon Mary was like... he impregnated her. I was like, oh, okay then.
The Holy Spirit came upon Mary.
Yep.
I guess they wanted to make it sound more like a money shot and less like a cream pie.
For
14-year-old Megan, that was deeply traumatic.
16-year-old, not so much.
To be fair, it was only when I was 24, I think, 24 or 25, that I realized what the ending to the Lot's daughter story actually was. Because I always read it from a King James Version Bible that said he would know them and they would know him, and I was like, oh, well, of course they know their dad.
Oh, yes.
I didn't quite understand what "no" meant.
No. Oh dear.
Yeah. Speaking of
Hebrew?
Oh yeah, lots. But
okay.
Speaking of things that make us go, oh dear.
So it is not scripturally accurate to say that men and women are equally created in God's image, or that God split his image between men and women.
There's some imagery there. Solomon says, "Is this your God?" The two Christians are arguing that they don't know if it's their God or not. It has to be this Christian's God. It has to be this Christian's God. And then King Solomon, in his wisdom, takes a scimitar and cleaves God in half. And crap, he made man and woman.
We will divide the bike in half. Anybody's a Seinfeld fan? I don't know, but all right.
I need a sign to hold up when you make Seinfeld references.
Yeah, that's true. I make a lot of them. Seinfeld reference. We'll make it on OBS. We'll make it like you have your citation needed stamp. We'll have a Seinfeld reference stamp.
Dude, this is a Seinfeld reference. The joke's funnier when you explain it.
Yes.
Oh God, Cajun Crustacean just said, so God is a futa? This explains a few things. Oh dear. I'm hoping both of you know what that word means.
I don't. I'm not sure I should be admitting that.
It's not something you should look up in Google image search.
Okay, cool.
The full word is futanari, and it's girl with penis is what it basically boils down to. That's why I said you don't want to do it in Google image search.
Or maybe you do.
True, I don't know.
And there is a reason man is created in God's image and woman is not. I can't wait. Man was created by God to image him or live out his attributes and thereby bring him glory. Woman was created by God for man to help man in his primary mission to image God. It is not woman's mission to image God, but rather it is her mission to help man in his mission to image God. Did Jill write this?
Maybe.
You know who Jill is?
I don't actually.
Jesus is Lord.
Jesus is Lord?
Yeah. I mean, Jesus is Lord. Skylar just doesn't like saying his name.
Oh, I know who you're talking about now.
He calls him Jesus. I call him Jill.
He comes onto my channel every now and again. Yeah, I'm familiar with him in that I know the name. Also, this the verbiage that's used here is not exclusive to this one article. The last article that I read also, there were several passages where he talks about to image God, to image this, to image that. And I kept misreading it as imagine.
I skimmed it earlier. Why are we imagining God? I mean, that's an interesting...
So I'm not the only one.
Right.
No.
This is much more liberal than I was expecting from an article with that title. So, Josh, as I understand, my job is to make you more like God.
Oh.
So I hope you're a fan of Nine Inch Nails.
I never really listened to them, although they were in my time.
The joke is that God was hung on a cross with nails.
I see.
She wants to make sure you're like God. So if you want to be more Christ-like, I hope you're hung like this.
I'm officially a mythicist now.
Biblical History Skeptics has another super chat.
I'm starting.
Girls with penis incognito mode activated. Chris, I'm very happy you're helping me pay my bills, but and continuing.
Let's see. Man could not fully image God without being a husband.
No, I think imagine. Man could not fully imagine God without being a husband and father.
Oh.
I'm not sure that adds a lot to the passage. I just thought it was...
See, when you guys say that, I think of that. I can only imagine. Did you ever hear that song?
Yeah. I used to be able to play Amazing Grace on an ocarina.
That's amazing.
What I heard was I could play Amazing Grace to the Macarena.
No. No.
That would also be amazing.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going to go with.
No, an ocarina is it's a potato-shaped ceramic woodwind instrument.
Obviously.
Yes.
Clearly you didn't play Zelda as a child.
Yes. She knows. She knows exactly what it is.
One lot to play Palia ocarina.
Oh my god.
I probably butchered that. I apologize.
Cajun crustacean.
It's like our 5-year-old pronouncing. She pronounces things as they sound and not actually knowing what the words are, obviously. And she said, "What I look like? A charity face?"
Her rendition of Feliz Navidad is also quite impressive. She gets really upset with with Alexa because Alexa doesn't understand when she says, "Alexa, play Feliz Navidad."
Navidad. So, we have another $2 super chat from Cajun Crustration. Incognito mode will not save you. Evil laugh. And this one's not a super chat, but I did want to go ahead and say it. Bamar says the best part of this is the fact that none of you get each other's jokes.
But we all smile and nod appropriately.
We're all just like, that was supposed to be funny. The American egalitarian lie. Oh dear, that's where we're going into.
I think you're up, sirs.
Oh yeah, can't wait.
Yay! It's a shame I know that there's nothing but water in there.
Yeah, it's. I wish there was more than water in there. I wish I drank. Oh dear. Pufflepicus says Bible rules only one gender fluid secretes fluid. Oh, Bible rules only one gender fluid secretes fluid. Okay. Okay, time for the fun part. The American egalitarian lie. I realize what I have just said here is extremely offensive to our culture's modern egalitarian views. Are you sure that it might not be more apt to say that it's more offensive to actual people?
It is also quite offensive as a European.
Yeah.
European.
Yeah. European number 2. That would be that would go septic very quick.
Nice.
We are taught in America, not just in America, that everyone is equal and that men and women should have equal rights. Yeah.
I like that this is up for debate now.
And by extension, we are taught that marriage is a partnership of equals where all actions and decisions must be discussed and agreed upon because men and women are equal. It's arguments like this that make the Muslim apologetic that Islam is more progressive than Christianity start making sense.
Yeah.
The vast majority of churches and Christian teachers have bowed to our egalitarian culture, and in the process, many Christian books and articles have been published over the last half century trying to make the Bible... Oh, dear. Sorry, that's very distracting that the I want to see the manager haircut just disappeared randomly. That's strange. That's magic. I don't understand this magic. Anyway... have been published over the last half century trying to make the Bible fit an egalitarian worldview. The primary passage that Christian egalitarians use to teach this view is found in the Apostle Paul's letter to Galatians, that there is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither bond nor free, there is neither male nor female, for ye all are one in Christ Jesus. Okay, I don't personally see a problem with that so far. The Bible contradicting itself isn't new.
No. And I wouldn't necessarily say that churches are bowing to public culture. I think they're trying to move and keep, update themselves and remain relevant to people's lives.
As opposed to trying to dial everything back to ye old Iron Age.
Yeah.
Christian egalitarians use Galatians 3:28 to cancel out the rest of the Bible in regards to gender roles. Also, we just got a new subscriber, so thank you very much. If I can read it, CNC Machining is Fun has subscribed. Awesome. I should probably turn that off. It is really a very faulty interpretation of the Bible. Christian egalitarians ask us to believe the ridiculous notion that somehow Paul changed his mind about what he wrote in Ephesians, and he just canceled it all out with Galatians. Are Galatians and Ephesians both considered proper canon? Are they both within his letters that are not considered forgeries?
Yeah,
I don't know enough about the New Testament to say.
I know that if Chris is still in the chat, he might actually know. So if you are, let us know, because that would be this is probably your area.
Alias fake name is saying Ephesians is a forgery.
Ephesians is considered one of the forgeries.
Yeah.
And then Galatians is Ephesians was not written by Paul. Galatians was. Okay, so the fact that there's a contradiction here makes perfect sense because one of these is a forgery and the other one is authentic. And if Galatians is the authentic one, then the authentic statement is the one that all people are equal.
Hooray! I get to be a real person. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you very much.
I don't know that I've ever heard a sane person say that. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
We're literally sitting here talking about whether I have the right to make my own decisions. I'm not sure sanity enters anywhere into this.
Awesome. Alias fake name says it beat it to you, biblical history skeptics. Or beat you to it, rather. Yes. Again, thank you for the $5 donation again. I think bills are going to be a lot easier to take care of this month. So, we continue on, saying, and we are also supposed to believe that the Apostle Peter did not get the memo from Paul because he wrote in Peter 3:1-6 that women were to be in subjection to their own husbands and to show respectful fear to their husbands and follow Sarah's example, who obeyed her husband and called him Lord. I don't think there should be any type of fear in the relationship, not even just respectful fear, just that shouldn't be a thing that comes into there. I don't know. Honey, do you fear me?
No.
Good. Okay, that's how it's supposed to work, at least. Although maybe not in so many words. This is why I have maintained for years that you have to throw the doctrine of biblical inerrancy out the door to be a Christian egalitarian. Wait.
Yep.
Wait a minute.
Would you like an award for this statement?
Wait a minute. Okay. There are not mistakes and no Do
you can do it.
Do you understand how to sentence? There are not
He can
mistakes.
image, but he can't sentence.
There are not mistakes, and it should be there are not mistakes, and there are no contradictions in the Bible. It should not be there are not mistakes and no contradictions in the Bible.
Maybe it was intentional play.
I don't think this person has the brain power for that. I don't.
He's too busy imaging God.
He's imaging God on his 3D printer. He just has God written in a CAD program. It's okay.
Oh gosh.
And the scriptures interpret the script.
Yep.
Yeah, they do.
Just gonna lift this monitor and toss it that way. And just get rid of it. If the scriptures interpreted the scriptures, then we wouldn't have needed Pharisees. Okay, sure.
Why not?
This is why, as Bible-believing Christians, we know that there absolutely no conflict. We know I'm going to find them. I'm going to pluck out the hairs on their head, and I'm going to make a soup out of them. And they can eat it, for all I care. This is why, as Bible-believing Christians, we know that there are absolutely no conflicts or contradictions in the Bible. There we go. I've made it to where your sentence makes sense. Congratulations. You don't have to pay me for this wonderful editing work.
Yeah, I mean, grammatically, it makes sense, maybe.
Grammatically, yes, but not necessarily, like,
The content
literally
remains a little bit.
a little bit shit.
Yep.
Oh.
All bit.
Okay. Biblical history acceptance. There are no contradictions in the Bible. Notice me, senpai. Stop it, Chris. I've noticed you. We've had a few conversations on Steve's channel. Believe me, I've noticed you. All right. 1 Corinthians 11:1-6 is speaking about the purposes for which God created man and woman and man's primary mission to image God. I still hate that.
I feel like that's some type of sexual metaphor.
I really do.
Gotta image God.
Is that like finding Jesus on toast?
Maybe that's where coming to Jesus came from.
And the Holy Spirit came unto her.
Yep.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. This is why men are not to wear a head covering for worship and prayer.
I mean, that
and
makes
women
perfect
are.
sense. Clearly, I've always wondered.
This
Why
is
men must
why.
not wear a head covering.
There was no protection in the ancient Near East.
This is also why God is always referred in the Bible in the masculine sense as husband, father, and son. Wait a minute. Hold on. I have a
And
question.
also in the plural sometimes.
I have a question. So it's referenced earlier in this article that the son would have to be subservient to the parent. God is subservient to himself, and
Yep.
he's also responsible to himself, and that's
But
it.
not accountable.
But not accountable. No, he can't be accountable because
No.
the parent can't be accountable to the child.
But as son, he probably is accountable to the father.
Yeah, something along those lines. My brain is hurting. I think I might need a new one. Oh boy. This is why God is always referred in the masculine sense of the husband, father, and son. It is why Christ had 12 male apostles. It is why the priests in Israel had to be male. Actually, that has more to do with the fact that they lived in a highly patriarchal society at the time. That's all that you can glean from that. It's not that it should have been that way. It's simply that it was that way.
Well, I mean, there were some fairly significant female prophetesses. Huldah is a significant one under Josiah. I mean,
But he's not going to mention any of that.
no. Well, he probably doesn't know about it. That's in the hard part of the Bible.
That's in the hard part of the Bible. Kawissa says, wasn't Mary Magdalene supposed to also be an apostle? Only if you're really heavily subscribing to the narrative from the Da Vinci Code, where there was like a hidden agenda that she was like the 13th apostle, and that they couldn't talk about it. I mean, if you subscribe to that, then maybe. But also, Yferret says God just has multiple personality disorder. Hope that helps. God has MPD confirmed. Okay, Ephesians 5:22-31 and 1 Peter 3:1-7. They're speaking to gender roles in marriage as part of God's larger plan for man to image God and woman to picture the people of God in her submission and service to her husband. The woman has to picture the people of God?
He doesn't English very well. You're right.
I don't think that's an Englishing problem. I think that's just a bad point. Women need to picture the people of God in her submission. So wait a minute. Is that like
really hard?
Think about the other people really hard. Think about the apostles while submitting to your husband in every possible way you can submit to your husband, including sexually.
I think
picture
is a verb here in the way that image is a verb.
He's saying she has to act as the people of God. In like the God and Israelite metaphor, she's the people part of the Israelite part of the equation.
I think none of that is...
He doesn't want to use the word image.
He doesn't want to use the word again, even though he's...
Because that's for doing things.
That's only for boys, like Legos and Batman.
And penises.
And penises are only for boys.
Yes.
But men are all eunuchs. Also, Vibrantly Brilliant says, glad to see you finally have some good guests on.
Thanks, Brant.
Thanks, Brant. I'll let don't worry, I'll let Aaron Raw know that he wasn't a good guest. I'll let him know. And finally, Galatians 3:28 has absolutely nothing to do with gender roles in this world or marriage. It is speaking to the subject of salvation. The Apostle Paul was saying men and women, Jews and Greeks, slaves and freemen could all be saved and be a part of the body of Christ. That's a way to... That's at least one way to twist it around so that it's no longer saying something good and it's saying something completely vacuous. Like, yeah, cool. I care that, as an example, a mass murderer... I care that mass murderer has accepted Jesus into his heart and is saved, but it's not going to change the fact that he was going around shooting people. Like, I don't care if somebody's saved or not. That's not...
it doesn't make a lot of difference.
Yeah, it doesn't change the society that I live in right now. But whether or not people are equal and treated equally, that does mean something in the society that I live in. That means a lot more to me.
I have to say, I just noticed, it's quite apropos, I think, that in this stream, under our picture, it says Megan Lewis. I think it's just very appropriate that there are two of us here, male and female, but we are being identified. We're being imaged. Wait, no, we're imaging. You're imaging. I've lost it. It's gone.
We're imaging something.
But your name is there.
I am.
You must have a penis.
Maybe.
Futas did come up earlier in the stream.
That's true. I'm going to have to check later.
Biblical History Skeptic says penises are only for boys. Sounds like the motto of the Catholic priests.
Oh, Chris.
He comes up with this a little too quickly.
The fact that he's also willing to throw out money for everyone. She's like, nope, this is... The world must know.
Chris is awesome.
He is. I have a lot of respect for him.
He did this. Everybody knows it, I'm sure. But he did this mic drop in that hangout that we did with G-Man. Where he pulled out volume after volume and said, "Does not agree with you. Does not agree with you. Does not agree with you." It was the most beautiful thing. Sounds less.
That's a lot like what Inspiring Philosophy does. When he was talking to Kent Hovind, just going like, I have this author that says you're wrong, and this one that says you're wrong, and this one that says you're wrong, and Kent's just like, he doesn't have a good response for it except to smile and nod. But Adi,
I do wish that IP would challenge the sources that he uses a little more, but I agree that
I think I agree with you there as well, because I think there was a debate between IP and Ocean at one point, and he pulled up a bunch of sources over and over again. Problem is that they were talking on an issue of historicity on something, and an issue with historicity in Christianity is that notoriously in Europe, Christians won the majority of the land and battles there, and history is written by the victors. So accuracy isn't simply a matter of looking at the authors from that time that were contemporary to the events. You also have to understand that if they happen to be on one side of that conflict, simply being contemporary to the event doesn't mean that their account was honest.
Yeah.
And even sorry, we can get back, but I mean, the modern scholars that he uses are oftentimes fringe themselves, and it's hard for the audience to know that if they don't know the material, the source material. So yeah, anyway.
Nadine says that it's really, really weird that I'm not showing up in subscriptions tab as being live. That would actually explain why for the first 30 minutes we had 3 viewers. Because even with Non Sequitur being live, we'd normally hit about 10 or 15 before momentum starts picking up. So that's weird. Biblical History Skeptic says his reliance on Walton and Heiser makes him cringe.
Yeah. Walton in particular. I mean, again, John Walton's a nice guy, but I mean, his work is anyway.
I mean, Mike Winger's a nice guy.
That's fair.
I don't care that he's nice. I'll do an entire stream dedicated to doing nothing but undermining his sources. Oh wait, that was yesterday.
It's a worthwhile exercise.
It's not that I disagree with everything that John Walton says. I mean, I think there's a lot of good things that John Walton says. It's just some of the central points that he's making, particularly in his arguments about Genesis, are fringe, and they've been fairly heavily critiqued by people like Dennis Pardee and Richard Averbeck, and for good cause. I mean, his work tends to be a little loose. It's a little sloppy.
Yeah.
But anyway,
that's what peer review is good for.
Indeed,
is making sure that you can get checks and balances on there.
Yep.
I'm going to check something here because we are an hour and 30 minutes, almost about to be an hour and 30 minutes into this stream. So I'm going to see exactly how much of this article that they have left, because I remember this one being particularly long compared to their other ones. So let's... Oh dear. That is quite a few sections.
We could just do the conclusion.
Yep, because we would normally have 1, 2, 3, 4... 5 sections to go, but I think we probably could skip over to the conclusion, because this seems to be a lot of just going over the same point over and over again.
I know that here at the end it talks an awful lot about I'm here to keep her out of sin, I'm here to keep her from being a busybody, from telling tales out of school. That was my attempt at the brother were at that.
And also in there he says that I may not provide the same service for you and be like your spiritual check, because I'm your subordinate and you should have another man as an equal help you stay on the straight and narrow.
There are only certain services that you may provide.
Yep. Sexual, I think.
Penis.
So are you saying that she would provide the penis?
I guess it just depends.
It could be arranged.
Depends on the context.
It could be arranged. I know a good surgeon. It's fine. It'll be fine.
Hello, Cat.
Okay.
What are you doing?
He's saying, I haven't eaten. Did you know that?
It is past his dinner time. Okay, I'm sorry.
He's just looking at you like, I want the food. Give me the food.
Stop apologizing.
Whatever you're doing, it is not the food.
No.
All right, so I think we can do the conclusion at this point, because again, there's 4 other sections in here. It would take us another hour to get through those sections, and I don't hold this person's writing in a high enough regard to say that that anything as massive is going to change in that amount of time.
No.
So, if either one of you would like to go into the conclusion.
Sure.
We can go and
It
do
is
that.
utterly amazing to me how many modern Christian teachers grab Ephesians 5:25 statement, husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it. And then I think that's supposed to be they, just fill in whatever they think that love means. Modern Christian teachers teach that Jesus was a husband that lived to make his wife happy, but the Bible teaches that Jesus was a husband that lived to make his wife holy. All right, then. Modern Christian teachers teach that Jesus was a husband who never corrected his wife or tried to change her. But the Bible teaches us that Christ washes his wife's spiritual spots and wrinkles with the word of God to make her the wife he wants her to be. It also teaches us that he rebukes and chastens his wife out of love for her.
So just so everybody knows, the Bible works as a magic eraser.
Apparently.
Where are the spiritual spots?
I don't know. Not entirely
and how
sure.
do you reach it?
There's something that bothers me when it says that modern Christian teachers teach that Jesus was a husband that lived to make his wife happy, and then it says that modern Christian teachers teach that Jesus would have been the husband that never corrected his wife or tried to change her. But that's, unfortunately, we find that when we get into relationships, both parties are flawed. It's part of being a human. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no way around it. And really, the only honest way to find out what issues exist within yourself is usually through some type of outside critique. And the person who's going to be able to critique you best is going to be the person who lives with you day in and day out. They'll be able to tell you, oh no, you actually do have an anger issue. Oh no, you actually might be an alcoholic, as an example. They would be able to tell you these things. And it shouldn't be that the husband can tell the wife that they have these problems, but the wife can't tell the husband that they have similar problems. But neither of these people are perfect. You can't just say that the husband is perfect because they're made in the image of Christ, and therefore that it's not the wife's job to check and balance the husband at all. That's, again, all of this sounds like it's a wonderful gateway to allow for several types of egregious abuse. Just my takeaway on it.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. Modern Christian teachers teach Jesus was a husband who was completely transparent with his wife and held nothing back from her. That's a bit of the Bible I have not read.
Oh, it's called Song of Solomon.
Oh, okay, thank you. But the Bible teaches us that Christ does indeed hold things back from his wife and tells her there are things that are not for her to know. Because Jesus is God. So he's like, in the framework of the Bible, Jesus is allowed to say, I know better than you because I am literally God.
But the Father held some things back from the Son.
Yeah.
No man knoweth the day nor the hour. No man.
No man may.
But there's a lady. Okay, sorry.
Christian wives, I know a lot of the scriptures and information I have given you here might be new to you.
You're dumb.
Because you're only a woman and you cannot read.
Put your hat back on.
It might even be offensive to you.
But Josh should not put a hat on while we're doing this.
But it is what the Word of God teaches.
Here in America.
Welcome to America. We like Jesus and bacon.
If you don't like bacon, you may be a communist.
Or one of them dang Saudis.
Yep. You will find absolutely no scriptural support for a lot of what you hear and read today in Christian circles that basically teaches partnership marriage. So a sustainable relationship between two human adults. We can't have that because it's wrong.
No.
Sadly, some Christian groups pretend that they teach male headship only to gut it, making the man nothing more than a figurehead leader.
By the way, if anybody doubts that people like this exist, go to a Ben the Baptist video and read the comments.
Don't do that. You will want to kill something.
Yeah.
I have yet to do that because I don't find him worth considering, but I might have to now just because you said that.
Oh, I mean, you will see women there embracing this.
No doubt. Just look
with
at
an intensity.
Girl Defined.
Yeah.
I mean, she wants to bear a man's name, and his offspring.
See, sometimes I really wish that we could have just changed your name and the kids' names to mine.
Yeah, we can.
Well, we can't really change the kids' names.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it would have been one of those beautiful things to just kind of just subvert the entire ordeal here when somebody's saying this is how things need to be, and you're just like, but we're living examples of why it doesn't have to be that way.
Yep, and we're pretty happy.
Heck yes, we are. We do whatever we feel like we want to do. Come. All right. I haven't been drinking. That I know of.
You know, if I did not put anything in your coffee. This is not about a power trip. This is not about men hating on you as a woman or trying to make your life miserable.
I'm sorry, the phrase hating on you is amazing.
In this context is quite special.
Don't hate.
It sounds like this person is responding to a Tumblr post.
Yes. It is about God's design. So what you need to do is follow the admonition of the Apostle Paul when he wrote, "And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God." You need to renew your mind. You need to unlearn the feminist and egalitarian teachings you grew up with in school and church, and maybe even in your own family. That is tough process.
That is tough
because we do not need the definite article.
That is tough process.
Oh my God.
I hear it like that. That is tough process.
I hear it like there's a freaking there's just a conglomerate meat product that somebody's chewing on at like a testing panel. That is some tough process.
It won't be easy and it will take time. But if you yield to the Holy Spirit, you can do it with his help.
Yield to that Holy Spirit.
The Holy Spirit came unto her. Yield to it.
Yep. Oh, gosh.
Sorry.
And before I conclude with the men, I want to clarify something for you ladies on the subject of accountability partners. While I think it is great and valuable for women to mentor and be accountability partners with other women, it needs to be the right kind of women. It needs to be a spiritual woman who will not contradict your husband's spiritual leadership. In other words, I would be a shit accountability partner. Don't choose me because I will tell you that you are a whole and wonderful person who deserves to have self-determination. In addition, you are still accountable to your husband as well because he is your spiritual head.
I'm betting this guy doesn't get laid a lot.
Actually, he's had 2 wives, and he still has his current one.
It's very biblical.
Yeah.
I still don't think he gets laid a lot.
Yeah, it's funny. In his article that he wrote before his original wife could take more of a pounding sexually, but his current wife can't. But she has to take it for him because that's what God says that she has to take. Now, this is stuff he actually talks about in his article.
See, like I define getting laid as a little more of
that's horrific.
Yeah, that's not really getting laid. He's raping.
That's rape.
Yeah,
that's.
Oh,
well, remember he has another article saying that, you know, and actually once we're done with this, we're going to take a quick second to look at some of the articles that he's like, just the titles of some of the articles that this person's written to show just maybe a smidge of what this person's character is like.
And then we'll find the number to a local police department.
Good God.
And Adi says, is this the same jackass who wrote The Woman Should Endure Pain in Sex? Yes, this is. This is the same author. It is the same website. I said I would be continuing doing more of their website, and this was actually a suggestion from a mutual friend of ours on Twitter, and said, hey, I think you guys should get Dr. Josh and Megan to help with this. And I was like, sure, we can do that.
That's sweet.
Oh, this person that's really, really scary. That is really scary.
The scary part is they exist.
Yep. In practical terms, that means if your husband wants to know your passwords for your phone, email, and social media accounts, you must give it to him. But he does not, and I would argue should not, give you this same information.
What?
Yep.
The fuck? No.
Yep.
No. There's many reasons why that should not be the case. Okay, so let's go ahead and paint a fucking scenario. I have to stop it there because I pause it there rather because there's an entire scenario that has to be pointed out that will show why this is wrong.
Yep.
So, we've already pointed out several times that this type of behavior, this type of rhetoric can lead to an abusive relationship. Let's go ahead
clearly is in his case.
Yes, no question.
Let's go ahead and say that it has. Let's go ahead and say that this is. Maybe not this author's, though I'm willing to say that that might be the case. But let's say that this type of thinking, a husband and a wife read this article and understood it and said that, oh no, this is right, this is how things should be. Mm-hmm. So the wife finds herself on the shit end of an abusive relationship. Okay, this wife attempts to seek some sort of counseling, seek some sort of help. And in doing so, because the husband knows the passwords to all of her social media and all the methods that she would use to contact anybody on the outside, now the wife is in a situation where not only is she compromised, but she is now in danger. And there is no way that the wife can find out if, say, the husband has got spies sitting, waiting for her. She does not know which of the husband's friends she can trust because that information is locked on the husband's phone. She doesn't know if the person that is their mutual friend that she's talking to is going behind her back and telling the husband all of these things so that he can undermine her at any point, because she's not given equal access to this information. No, everything about this article is a portal into an abusive relationship or an apologetic to allow it to continue.
Yep.
Sorry, that made me mad.
No,
it's also,
it needed saying.
I think it's also a window into an abusive relationship.
Yeah, this is definitely a window into an abusive relationship, or at the very least, somebody who's willing to apologize for them.
Yeah.
Which is just as bad.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, continue. Sorry.
No. So why? Because I said before, he is your authority and you are his subordinate. He is responsible for monitoring and, if necessary, correcting your behavior, but you do not have that same right and responsibility toward him. This is just like a Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah. No, this is wrong.
That's the picture we're looking at here. Also,
is it
if you want to find out
at?
what it really means to be one flesh with your husband and how to have unity in your marriage, see my article, Why Unity in Marriage Has More to Do with the Wife Than the Husband. So not only am I subordinates to you and completely incapable of anything and infantilized and controlled, it's also my responsibility if the marriage fails. Because it's my job to make it a union.
Yeah.
Isn't that fun?
I don't know what to do.
I think both of you are having some internal anger.
We're going to be hugging a lot
Yes.
after this.
Yeah. Just like, thank you for not being this person.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Oh. Both ways.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the worst part is that I actually have a friend who I've talked to online. I don't want to. All I can reveal is that they're female and that they're Muslim. I don't want to reveal much more past that. But they make similar apologetic arguments like stuff like this, and I spent the better part of like 6 months trying to convince them that this is wrong and abusive. Never really was able to convince them of that. Kind of upset at myself for that, but you know.
I mean,
what
I
are you
think
gonna do?
The thing that I'm thinking of here is how, because I think we all watching this stream, and by the way, if you're watching it, give it a like, because I mean, got 36 watching now, 13 likes. I mean, I think it's very important to do that. It gets the message out there. But I think for me, I'm thinking about, we all know that this is bullshit. You know, the people watching know this is bullshit for the most part. I would have. Yeah, sure. So then, how to make this like practically useful? I mean, it enrages me, it enrages Megan, it enrages Service, it enrages all of us. What do we do? And I think that one of the things, I worked in the jail for about 7 years as a chaplain, and you know, one of the ways that I was able to, even as a Christian pastor, to empower women was through a very interesting loophole that their husbands probably weren't Christians, right? And so there was some more leeway there. But I think we need to think about practical ways that we can, as you're talking about with this friend of yours, how to talk to them in a way that is not isolating, because I mean this is an indoctrinated position, right? I mean they're brainwashed. I mean this is really what this is. And so how do we interact in a way that, and I don't know that I know a good answer to this.
I don't really either.
But I think it's something that we need to think about, and maybe we need to all do more streams on this and think about ways to interact with these, because I mean this is a very real thing. And again, if you haven't gone to a stream like Ben the Baptist or Matt Powell, watch the comments, watch the women in the comments. They believe this, they endure this. It's a scary reality. I think we need to engage with it.
Yeah, there's definitely an argument to be had for not... There's always an argument for not isolating yourself in an echo chamber. But when you're talking about something like this, it's not just because an echo chamber is a wonderful place to never learn new information, but it's also because when you have information that other people need so that they don't find themselves on the crap end of an abusive relationship, getting outside of that echo chamber means you can get that information out there so that they can hear it. My hope would be, if anybody has a friend who thinks that any of the arguments in here are legitimate, send this stream to them and see if maybe we can change at least one person's mind and get them out of a potentially horrific situation. Because this is not cool. Nothing here is cool.
The problem is that if you're in a church where you do your best to live as literally by the Bible as you can, then this shit makes sense.
Yeah.
The Bible does say this stuff, and in the time and place the Bible was written and compiled, this was the acceptable way to conduct a marriage. This was how life was. But that doesn't make it God's will. And I know many people would disagree with this argument, but my view is that the Bible was written by people, and people get stuff wrong. So even if it started out as some kind of divinely inspired message, it's been changed, it's been modified, and like people get things wrong. They put their own stuff in where they feel like it. So using it as a rule book for today's society, it doesn't work, because society has changed and people have changed and we live differently and we know better now.
And I think to piggyback on that, if you do hold to this position that the author does here, this is irrespective of genre, the literal guidelines, marching orders for life today. What did they consider the passages in the New Testament about about slavery to be? Right? If you're a slave, don't seek to be free. I think thinking through those types of passages in the same way, that's what the text says.
But that doesn't mean that that's how we have to live today.
And I think people would very quickly, well, not always, but many people, even in this situation, would very quickly say, well, yeah, of course, that was then. But I think they need to take away that cognitive dissonance and say, wait a minute, if it's true for that, it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. So,
yeah, and I don't agree with any of what this. I agree that some of the historical context of this is correct, but I don't agree that any of this should be applied in modern day. And one of the apologetics that I normally hear for why things like this are still relevant in the modern day is when people reference like, oh, well, I guess then Shakespeare is not relevant in the modern day. And like, no, Shakespeare is relevant as a piece of literature. It's relevant as a piece of fiction.
As a guideline for how to live one's life.
I mean, think about Gilgamesh is a perfect example of this. I always go back to it because, Mesopotamian culture and Akkadian and Sumerian are the best things ever. No bias there. But, Gilgamesh is a great piece of literature, and I think we can learn principles from it. For example, don't squander your life, right? I mean, like Gilgamesh goes off to try to do all these amazing things and finds out, in the end, I still die, right? So he's searching for meaning. He's searching for, to make his name. And I think those types of understanding mortality and making the most of what you have. I think those are good principles to take away. Doesn't mean that I'm going to go try to find the bowl of heaven and kill it and throw its haunch at Ishtar.
And then find Noah and gain immortal life.
Utanapishtim, dear.
Sorry.
Let's get his name right, because it's not Noah.
Oh my gosh. Pavlovka says if they question the teachings when they start to question, or if they question the teachings and they start to question the story, and that is taught to be an unforgivable thing. A lot of times, yes, I think inerrancy in the Bible should not be taught because you get told that it's an inerrant piece of scripture. And then when it's mentioned that, oh, well, there are things in it that got wrong. Oh, well, it was written by men, so of course there's going to be issues. Oh, well, there's 66 books. Of course there's going to be issues. It's like, okay, well, once there's one issue, it's no longer inerrant. So stop teaching that it's inerrant. Take it for what it is. It is a piece of history. It is a piece of literature. It is a wonderful amalgamation of parables, of fiction, of history, of people's lives, both real and false. It is a piece of culture, but it is not in any way, shape, or form a standard that people should be using in modern day. It's
and then I'll be quiet, I promise. But I think that even so, just thinking about the audience that we're trying to reach here, I think that even if you want to say, I want to maintain my Christian faith. You don't need inerrancy to do that, right? You don't need the Bible to be this infallible text. It like that's not a requirement. This is if you're
worshiping Christ, not the book.
That's exactly right. I mean, this is. Let's assume for a second that God is real, that Jesus, the Spirit of Jesus, and all that thing, salvific work, whatever, is real. It doesn't require an infallible book. What we're looking at here, in either case, is people interacting with the divine, what they consider to be the divine, be it real or not. And this is the product, this text. And so I think understanding that, gleaning from it what one can, and understanding, if you believe that, the spiritual nature of that interaction and what's behind it, I mean, that's what matters. Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Well, for the last exercise in, I was going to say in brain cancer because I thought that sounded significantly horrific, and we're dealing with an issue that is certainly hurting our brains. The problem is that cancer at least grows on you, and this person's articles are not doing that to me.
No.
So we're going to take a look at some of their stuff here. So biblical gender roles. That's an article. Where is your? This is much better sorted on his on the mobile version of this site. Strangely
I
enough.
like how the wife is cooking with the kids and the husband is fixing a car.
Yeah, the husband's fixing a car, and then the kids that are cooking.
Oh, girls!
They're girls.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yes. Okay,
Wow.
So let's see some of the other articles here, and we can't see them on the screen. They can't see it on the screen for them because I have this clipped in a way where they can only see the article itself. Okay. But let's look at some of their recent posts. Sometimes love does have a label. That seems like that could be loaded in a myriad of ways. Should a Christian wife submit to her husband's sexual sadism?
I'm going to hazard a guess and say yes.
I've skimmed that article, and it actually says that sadism is not okay in any sense of the word.
Really?
But
you can have sex with your wife if it hurts and if she says no.
As long as you're not enjoying the fact that it hurts.
Oh.
Apparently, is the way they would get around that.
So as long as you're both miserable while you're having sex, it's okay.
Yes. Of course, we have the how a husband can enjoy sex that causes his wife pain.
Oh, good.
Wait a minute.
No, he can't enjoy the fact that it's causing pain. He can enjoy the sex.
Yes.
Just not that his wife is in distress.
I don't know how you separate those
I'm not sure.
two things.
I'm not sure either.
That's why. Okay.
Of course, we have the lovely how a husband can enjoy sex that causes his wife pain. That's the one that we had to deal with. We had why a wife should endure painful sex with her husband. That was the one that I covered before. That's the one that got everybody up in arms. A woman should disobey her husband for the gospel.
Sorry.
We literally just spent a whole article reading about why I shouldn't ever disobey you.
It's if the Holy Spirit comes upon you.
Okay.
Oh, dearie. Me, my. This person's written a lot of articles recently. It's coming from somebody who has daily uploads on his channel. I still think this is a lot. What are your goals as a husband for 2019? Help spread the message of biblical gender roles in 2019. No,
thank you.
Intending to tame her. That's nice.
Can a Christian man marry a woman intending to tame her? Why men going their own way is an unbiblical philosophy. Well, yeah, it is unbiblical, but it's not started on anything biblical, so it doesn't fucking have to be. Granted, I think that movement's also full of shit, as full of shit as this article, but still, it doesn't have to be biblical because it was never meant to be in the first place. It's just like when somebody you hear this from the atheist crowd a lot, and I hate hearing this because it's only a response to a particular type of Christian. When they say that, well, the Bible gets everything wrong on science. Of course it does. It's not a science book.
It's not a science book.
It doesn't have to get everything right on. It doesn't have to get anything right on science.
Mm-hmm.
It's not one of the criteria for it being the book that it is. So a movement not being biblical, that wasn't the criteria for that movement in the first place. I don't think that it claims to be biblical. If somebody in the chat, if they can correct me on that, that would be awesome. I would not mind being corrected on that and find out that actually we just have another No True Scotsman situation. I think it's a win-win for us either way. And that's all the articles they have listed here in recent posts. I don't feel like delving further into the mush and muck of this shit. No. This is horrible. And now I'm curious. This will be the last thing. Let's see here. Oh, he had editing help.
Not enough.
Well, that's sad.
Oh dear. Tyler, thanks as always for the editing help. Don't thank Tyler for the editing help. He did a shit job. Alice is one of the people that was referenced as one of his readers in the article that I took on last time. As to passwords and email, I wouldn't be infuriated. I would be deeply hurt, and I would not say another word about it. But I would feel that my husband did not trust his heart in me, and I would wonder where and how I failed. For the rest, I know there is a lot my husband isn't telling me. That's fine. No, it's not. Truthfully, there are many of my thoughts and prayers, but not actions of which he is unaware.
Uh-oh.
No.
Can't
Stop.
keep prayers from him.
Stop it.
Girl.
Your husband is likened unto Christ. You can't keep prayers from him. It's in the definition.
He knows them. They're going to him.
Exactly. No. I need... I do thank you guys for coming on, but I think that I need a shower after this.
I definitely need one. Thank you for inviting us.
Yes, absolutely. It was fantastic.
And thank you for going through this stuff. I don't know how you do it all the time.
Yeah, we definitely would not have done this without you.
No.
Yeah, no, there was a point during the stream that I did on this by myself where I actually threw my headphones down and just walked away. And just the chat was just like, sir, it's broke.
Yeah.
Just like, nah.
This will break you.
Yeah.
No, it's infuriating because these are the people that we have to share a planet with.
Yeah.
And the worst
these are the people who do things like vote on who runs the country and what gets taught in our schools and teach their own children
to make America great again.
Oh.
Who then grow up and perpetuate this shit and inflict it on their children.
And funny story. Speaking of people like this, I also noticed, because I went back through their older article before we did this show, and noticed that my comment on their article was missing.
Oh.
I commented on their article linking to this YouTube video, not this one, but the one from before, saying that, by the way, I did a critique on your article. I hope you enjoy. And it was removed. So I know that at the very least, much like with Matt Powell and Anderson, the author of this shit show is peripherally aware of me, and that's fine. They're aware that there are people that think they're full of horse crap.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kara Sophia in the chat says he screens comments. He admits to it. You shouldn't screen your comments. No, I allow practically every comment on my channel because it only takes one person to be a good check and balance. Not to mention, I think that there's no reason to censor views that are against your own, because that's the quickest way to either undermine or show the flaws in your own position. So no.
I delete people who are abusive towards other commenters, or overly abusive towards us. Like, if you disagree with me, that's fine. I genuinely,
that's fine.
That's okay. Like on the Ancient Aliens video, there were several people who like had an issue with something I presented, which I hadn't thought about, and actually it was useful to consider. But I've also had people just cursing at me. I'm like, no.
Yeah. I had a video I did on Hugh Ross at one point, and there were certain things in my argument against Hugh Ross I got wrong, and somebody had like a 13-paragraph dissertation explaining all the things that I got wrong in the video, or at least all the things they felt I got wrong. So I went back, I fact-checked against what they said, and I made a follow-up video saying, these things they said were correct. These are the things I got wrong. Here are the things they said that were incorrect. These are the things that I still got right. And then now there's also a link to that follow-up video on the Hugh Ross video. Yeah, you can get comments that show you that, you know, there's things that you said in a video that are right or wrong. I have a video that has a fact check on it because Aaron Raw fact checked the video and went, this one thing is wrong. It's a thing that you can do. But yeah, there are also, like the comment that I brought up earlier in the stream, there are some people that are just mentally and verbally abusive in there. And those people can eat a bag of dicks. I'll allow their comments in there so that, you know, the sunlight can show that they're people who need to eat a bag of dicks, but they can certainly eat a giant bag of dicks. Hopefully ones that have gone septic. That would be ideal.
Yeah, that works.
But with that said, I do thank both members of Digital Hammurabi for coming out today. Thank you, Josh, and thank you, Megan.
It's wonderful. Thank you for having us.
If you guys enjoy their content or enjoyed them being here, please go ahead and subscribe to them. I have the link to their channel in the description below. Also, thank you all for suffering through this, because this is... I think I'm going to have to do more on this person. I'm going to have to end up doing a whole series on just the articles this person makes, because there's so much dummery in it. It hurts. It absolutely hurts. But... hope you all enjoyed, and we will see you